Captain David Miller stood at the bridge of the U.S. Prometheus, his eyes fixed on the massive holographic display showing Earth's last defensive line. The blue dots representing human ships looked painfully few compared to the swarm of red markers approaching from the direction of Centauri Prime. "Status report," he called out, his voice steady despite the weight of command pressing down on his shoulders. First Officer Lisa Cooper looked up from her station, her blonde hair tied back in a regulation bun. "All systems are green, Captain. The new weapon system is holding stable at 98% efficiency." Miller nodded, remembering the day 3 months ago when Earth Command had installed the experimental technology on the Prometheus. They called it the Sunforge, a weapon so powerful it could theoretically pierce any known shield technology, but it had never been tested in actual combat. "Sir," Communications Officer Brian Parker's voice cut through the tense silence. "Priority message from Earth Command. The Zarkax have launched their assault on Alpha Centauri. Our colony, it's gone." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Alpha Centauri had been humanity's first colony, home to over 3 million people. Miller's hands gripped the command rail until his knuckles turned white. "Put the message on the main screen," he ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing Admiral Sarah Hayes, her face grim. "Captain Miller, we've confirmed that the Zarkax fortress world of Centauri Prime is preparing for a final push against Earth. Their new shield technology makes their fortresses nearly impenetrable. But the Prometheus..." She paused. "Your ship might be our only hope." Lisa moved to stand beside Miller. "The Sunforge," she whispered. The Admiral continued. "We're detecting massive energy buildups in their fortress network. Intelligence suggests they plan to launch a coordinated attack within 48 hours. The Prometheus is hereby ordered to penetrate enemy lines and strike at Centauri Prime itself. If we can't stop them there, Earth will fall." Miller looked around the bridge at his crew. Each face showed determination mixed with fear. They were the best humanity had to offer, not because they were fearless, but because they kept fighting despite their fear. "Send confirmation of orders received," Miller commanded. "Navigation, plot a course to the Centauri system. We'll use the Orion Nebula to mask our approach." Amy Martinez, the tactical officer, spoke up from her station. "Sir, long-range scans show at least 3 Zarkax battle groups between us and Centauri Prime. Each group has 5 dreadnoughts and supporting vessels. With conventional weapons, we wouldn't stand a chance." "Then it's good we don't rely on conventional weapons, isn't it?" Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Engineering, what's the status of the Sunforge?" Chief Engineer Kevin Foster's voice came through the comm system. "The containment field is stable, Captain. But I have to warn you, we've never fired it at full power. The simulations show it could tear through a planet's crust, but the energy requirements are massive. We might only get 1 shot. 1 shot might be all we need," Miller replied. He straightened his uniform and addressed the bridge crew. "I won't lie to you. This mission is beyond dangerous. We're about to take humanity's most advanced ship deep into enemy territory, hoping an untested weapon will work against the strongest fortifications ever built. But every human colony that falls means millions of deaths. If we fail here, Earth is next." Lisa stepped forward. "Navigation, set course for the Orion Nebula. All hands to battle stations. Initiate silent running protocols." The massive battleship turned gracefully, its black hull absorbing nearby starlight. At over 2 kilometers long, the Prometheus was humanity's masterpiece, a perfect blend of power and technology. Its very existence had been kept secret until now. As they accelerated toward their destination, Miller watched the tactical display. Somewhere out there, the Zarkax were preparing their final assault, confident in their superior technology and impenetrable fortresses. They had never faced anything like the Prometheus. "Send word to all hands," Miller commanded. Tell them that humanity has drawn its line in the stars, and we're about to show the galaxy why you don't cross it." The Prometheus disappeared into the darkness of space, carrying with it humanity's last, best hope for survival. The ship's engines pulsed silently, pushing them toward either victory or oblivion. There would be no middle ground. The battle for Earth was about to begin. Science Officer Robert Hayes rushed into the bridge of the Prometheus, his tablet displaying data that made his hands shake. "Captain, you need to see this." Captain Miller turned from the main viewport where the Orion Nebula's purple and blue gases swirled around their ship. "What is it, Hayes?" "I've been analyzing the debris from Alpha Centauri colony," Hayes said, pushing his glasses up his nose. "The Zarkak shields. They have a flaw. A big one." First Officer Lisa Cooper moved closer, her interest piqued. "Show us." Hayes connected his tablet to the main display. Complex energy patterns filled the screen. "See this frequency pattern? Their shields create a perfect defense against our normal weapons. But they pulse. There's a microsecond gap every time they cycle. Can we exploit it?" Miller asked, his eyes narrowing. "The Sunforge can," Hayes replied. "If we tune it to the exact opposite frequency of their shield cycle, we cooled." The ship's alarms suddenly blared to life. Tactical Officer Amy Martinez's fingers flew across her console. Multiple contacts. 3 Zarkak's destroyers just dropped out of hyperspace. "How did they find us?" Miller demanded. "The nebula's radiation must have hidden their approach too," Lisa said. "They're charging weapons." Miller's voice cut through the chaos. "Battle stations. Amy, power up the conventional weapons only. Keep the Sunforge hidden. Kevin, divert power to shields." The Prometheus shuddered as the first enemy shots struck their shields. Through the viewport, 3 arrow-shaped Zarkak ships emerged from the nebula's gases, their black and red hulls gleaming with malice. "Return fire," Miller ordered. "Target their engines." The Prometheus's laser batteries opened up, filling space with blue energy bolts. The Zarkak ships dodged gracefully, their superior maneuverability evident. "Their shields are holding," Annie reported. "Our conventional weapons aren't even scratching them." Another hit rocked the ship. Engineering Chief Kevin Foster's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, shields at 60%. We can't take much more of this." Miller gripped his chair as the ship shook again. "Hayes, how long to reconfigure the Sunforge to your specifications?" 10 minutes, maybe less." "We don't have 10 minutes, Lisa warned. "Shields at 45%. Miller stood up, his mind racing. "Amy, target all weapons on the lid ship. Kevin, divert all non-essential power to the forward shields. Navigation, on my mark. Take us straight at their formation." "Sir." Lisa looked at him in shock. "That's suicide. The Zarkaks expect us to retreat," Miller explained. "They've never seen a human ship charge straight at them. Hayes, get to engineering. I want that Sunforge ready the second we need it." Hayes ran off the bridge as Miller gave the order. "Now, full speed ahead." The Prometheus surged forward, its massive bulk aimed directly at the enemy formation. The Zarkak ships hesitated for a crucial second, clearly surprised by the aggressive move. "They're breaking formation," Amy reported with excitement. "The lead ship is pulling back. All weapons, fire on that ship," Miller commanded. "Push them toward the nebula's denser regions." The space around them lit up with weapons fire. The Prometheus's guns might not penetrate their shields, but the sheer volume of fire forced the Zarkak ships to maneuver defensively. "Hayes to bridge." The science officer's voice was breathless. "Sunforge modifications complete. Shields critical," Kevin warned. "We can't take another direct hit." Miller's eyes locked onto the lead Zarkak ship. "Amy, power up the Sunforge. Target their shield generator. Time it with their cycle, just like Hayes calculated." The front of the Prometheus split open, revealing the golden glow of the Sunforge cannon. Energy readings spiked across every sensor on the bridge. Fire. A beam of pure golden energy lanced out from the Prometheus. For a split second, nothing happened. Then, Exactly as Hayes had predicted, the beam slipped through the microscopic gap in the Zarkak shield. The enemy ship's shield generator exploded, followed by its engine core. The destroyer split in half, secondary explosions tearing it apart. The remaining two Zarkak ships immediately jumped to hyperspace, retreating from the suddenly deadly human vessel. "Report," Miller called out. "Minor hull damage on decks 4 through 7, Lisa reported. "No casualties. The Sunforge is cycling for another shot, but Hayes's modifications worked perfectly." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Send the combat data to Earth Command. The Zarkaks just learned that their impenetrable shields aren't so impenetrable after all." The Prometheus hung in space, its victory marking the first time a Zarkak ship had been destroyed in direct combat. But Miller knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere ahead lay Centauri Prime and its massive fortress network. Now, at least, they had a fighting chance. The victory against the Zarkak's destroyers had lifted the crew's spirits, but their celebration was short-lived. 3 days into their mission toward Centauri Prime, the Prometheus faced its greatest challenge yet. Multiple hostile contacts. Amy Martinez's voice rang across the bridge. "Count is 15 ships. 3 dreadnoughts, Captain." Captain Miller leaned forward in his command chair. The main screen showed a wall of Zarkak's warships blocking their path. Unlike the previous encounter, these ships were arranged in a tight battle formation. "They were waiting for us," Lisa Cooper said quietly. "This is a trap." Engineering Chief Kevin Foster's voice crackled through the comm. "Captain, the Sunforge is ready, but after those modifications, we can only fire it 3 times before it needs a full cooldown cycle." Miller nodded grimly. 3 shots, 15 ships, not good odds. The enemy fleet launched their first volley. Hundreds of energy bolts streaked through space toward the Prometheus. The massive human ship rolled to present its strongest shields, but the impact still threw crew members against their stations. "Shields at 80%, Kevin reported. That was just their opening shot. Miller's mind raced. They couldn't retreat. Earth needed them to reach Centauri Prime. But a direct fight against these odds seemed impossible. "Sir," Robert Hayes called from his science station, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the 3 dreadnoughts. They're linking their shield systems together." Lisa's eyes widened. "They're learning. They're trying to prevent us from finding gaps in their shield cycles." Another blast rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across every console. "We need a plan now," Amy shouted, her hands flying over the tactical controls. Miller stood up. "Kevin, divert all power to the Sunforge. Amy, target the center dreadnought's shield emitters. Hayes, show me those energy readings." The science officer sent the data to the main screen. 3 massive Zarkak's dreadnoughts formed a triangle, energy beams connecting their shield systems. The smaller ships moved in precise patterns around them. "If their shields are linked," Miller said slowly, "then disrupting one ship's shields might affect them all." "Lisa, your thoughts?" The first officer studied the tactical display. "It's risky. If we're wrong, we waste our shot. If we're right, all ships would be vulnerable," Miller finished. He straightened his uniform. "Sometimes you have to roll the dice. All hands, battle stations." The Prometheus surged forward, its engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. The Zarkak's fleet responded immediately, their smaller ships moving to intercept. "Enemy fighters incoming," Amy reported. "Point defense systems engaging." Space lit up as the Prometheus's defense turrets tracked and fired at the swarm of Zarkak's fighters. Several exploded, but more kept coming. "Shields at 65%. Kevin's voice was strained. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast." Miller watched the tactical display, waiting for the perfect moment. The 3 dreadnoughts maintained their triangle formation, their linked shields glowing with power. "Sir," Hayes suddenly called out, "the shield link. It's causing power fluctuations. Their cycle timing is off." "Now or never," Miller muttered. Amy, fire the Sunforge. Full power. The Prometheus's bows split open once again, the golden weapon charging with terrible power. The Zarkak ships intensified their fire, realizing the danger too late. Firing. The Sunforge's beam struck the center dreadnought exactly where its shield emitters connected to the other ships. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a chain reaction, power surged through the linked shield system. All three dreadnought shields flared brilliantly and failed. "Their shields are down," Lisa shouted. The link backfired. "All conventional weapons, fire," Miller ordered. "Everything we've got." The Prometheus unleashed its full arsenal. Without their shields, the massive Zarkak ships were vulnerable. The center dreadnought exploded first, its destruction rippling outward. The other two dreadnoughts, their systems overloaded, began breaking apart. The remaining Zarkak ships scattered, their formation shattered by the loss of their largest vessels. "Damage report," Miller called out as the last explosions faded. "Shields at 40%. Hull breaches on decks 5 and 9. Repair teams responding," Kevin reported. "The Sunforge needs 2 hours to cool down." "Sir," Hayes said softly, "I'm detecting something else. Long-range scans show hundreds of ships around Centauri Prime. What we just fought was just their advance guard." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They had won this battle, but the true test still lay ahead. The fortress world of Centauri Prime waited for them, protected by the largest fleet humanity had ever encountered. Miller looked at his tired crew. "Plot a course through the debris field. We've shown them we can hurt them. Now we'll show them we can win." The Prometheus moved forward, battle-scared but undefeated, its crew ready to face whatever came next. Navigation Officer Emily Wright hadn't said a word for 3 hours as she stared at the star charts, looking for a way through the Zarkak's blockade. The main bridge was quiet, the crew still recovering from their recent battle. Suddenly, she sat up straight. "Captain, I think I found something." Captain Miller walked to her station, where a complex map of gravity wells and energy readings filled the screen. "What am I looking at, right?" "An old wormhole, sir," Emily said, her eyes bright with excitement. "It's collapsed, but the path is still there. Look at these energy readings. They match the patterns of ancient jump gates we found in the Artemis sector." Lisa Cooper joined them, studying the data. "Can we use it?" "Maybe," Emily replied. "The Zarkaks don't use this kind of technology. They probably don't even know it exists. If we can reactivate it, we could bypass their entire defense fleet," Miller finished. "Where does it lead?" Emily highlighted a point on the map. "Just 3 light years from Centauri Prime, behind their defense line." Before Miller could respond, Communications Officer Brian Parker called out from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up a transmission. It's not Zarkaks." "Put it through," Miller ordered. A strange voice filled the bridge, speaking broken English. "Human vessel, we watch your battles. We help you fight oppressors." The main screen showed a new ship emerging from behind a nearby asteroid. It was sleek and silver, completely different from Zarkak's design. "I am Carol of the Free Worlds," the voice continued. "Zarkaks enslaved my people century ago. We know paths they forget. Old ways. Dark ways." Miller shared a look with Lisa. This could be exactly what they needed, or another trap. "How do we know we can trust you?" Miller asked. "Look sensor readings," Carl replied. "My ship, no weapons. We guide only. Help humans reach fortress. Help end Zarkak's rule." Robert Hayes quickly confirmed it. "He's right, sir. Their ship is unarmed. It's some kind of scout vessel." Miller made his decision. "Carl, what do you know about the old wormhole network?" "Ah." The alien's voice brightened. "You find ancient roads. Yes, we know them well. Help you wake them. But must hurry. Zarkak's search party's coming." Engineering Chief Kevin Foster spoke up through the comm. "Captain, the Sunforge is still cooling down. if we run into trouble. Sometimes the best path isn't the one with the most guns, Miller said. Carol, can you transmit the activation codes for the wormhole? Sending now, the alien replied. Follow close. Time short. Emily's console lit up with new data. These are incredible. The ancients built a whole network of hidden passages through space. The Zarkax built their empire without ever knowing what was right under their noses. As if to emphasize the urgency, long-range sensors detected multiple Zarkax ships entering the sector. Enemy ships on an intercept course, Amy Martinez reported. 15 minutes until they're in weapons range. Miller straightened. Emily, how long to activate the wormhole? 10 minutes with Carol's data. But sir, she hesitated. This has never been done with a ship as large as the Prometheus. The power requirements will be massive. Kevin, can we do it? The engineer's voice was thoughtful. If we reroute power from everything except life support and structural integrity, maybe. But we'll be helpless until the systems reset. Better than fighting another fleet, Lisa pointed out, especially with the Sunforge still cooling. Miller nodded. Do it. Carl, we'll follow your lead. The silver alien ship moved gracefully toward a seemingly empty part of space. The Prometheus followed, its massive bulk dwarfing their new ally. Enemy ships, 12 minutes out, Amy updated. Initiating power transfer, Kevin reported. Main weapons offline. Shields offline. Diverting all power to the wormhole activation sequence. Emily's hands flew over her console as she input the ancient codes. Space itself began to twist in front of them, a blue spiral forming in the void. Zarkax ships increasing speed. Amy called out. They've spotted us. Almost there, Emily said through gritted teeth. The pathway is stabilizing. The wormhole burst into full existence, a swirling tunnel of blue energy large enough for the Prometheus to enter. Now or never, Miller said. Take us in. The Prometheus plunged into the wormhole just as the first Zarkax shots passed through their previous position. The tunnel of light engulfed them, ancient energies pulling them through space in ways humanity had never experienced. Behind them, Carl's ship followed, and the wormhole sealed itself, leaving no trace for their pursuers to follow. The hidden path had opened. Now they just had to survive where it led. The wormhole spat the Prometheus out into dark space, its systems slowly coming back online. Through the main viewport, the crew could see Centauri Prime, a massive world covered in metal and weapons. Status report, Captain Miller called out, steadying himself after the rough passage. Main power returning, Kevin reported from engineering. Shields at 40% and climbing. Sunforge is still charging. Carol's silver ship emerged beside them, looking tiny next to the massive human battleship. Human friends, fortress sensors still blind from wormhole energy. We have small time window. Amy Martinez's tactical display lit up. Sir, I'm reading over 200 defense platforms around the planet. Each one is bigger than a dreadnought. Show me, Miller ordered. The main screen displayed Centauri Prime's defense network. Metal platforms bristling with weapons formed a web around the planet. At the North Pole stood the largest structure any of them had ever seen, a fortress that could house an entire fleet. That's their command center, Lisa Cooper said, pointing to the polar fortress. All their defense systems are controlled from there. Brian Parker suddenly straightened at his communication station. Captain, I'm intercepting their internal communications, patching it through. A deep, commanding voice filled the bridge. This is Grand Admiral Vexthor to all commands. The human vessel must not reach firing range. Their weapon can penetrate our shields. Divert all power to the defense grid. I want that ship destroyed. Looks like we got their attention, Miller said grimly. Carol, any insights? Polar Fortress has weakness, the alien replied. Cooling vents for main reactors. If hit with enough force, the whole network would go down. Robert Hayes finished, studying his readings. But we'd have to get past all those platforms first. The defense platforms were coming alive, their weapons charging. The element of surprise was fading fast. "Kevin, status of the Sunforge?" Miller asked. "Another 10 minutes, sir. The wormhole passage drained more power than we expected." Miller looked at his crew. They were tired, their ship was damaged, and they faced impossible odds. But behind them lay Earth and all of humanity, counting on them to end this threat. Amy, plot firing solutions on those platforms. Conventional weapons only for now. Emily, plot a course that keeps us moving. Don't let them predict our path. Lisa, coordinate with Carl's ship. They can warn us about any tricks the Zarkax might try. The crew moved with practiced efficiency as the first defense platforms opened fire. The space around the Prometheus lit up with energy beams and plasma bolts. "Evasive maneuvers," Miller ordered. "Return fire." The massive human ship rolled and turned, its guns blazing. Several platforms exploded, but more took their place. Carl's ship darted between them, drawing fire and creating confusion. "Shields at 30%, Kevin warned. "We're taking too many hits." 5 minutes until Sunforge is ready, Hayes added. Suddenly, Lisa called out, "Sir, Carl's ship is moving toward the polar fortress." On the screen, the silver vessel weaved through the defense grid, taking heavy fire. Carl's voice came through, filled with static. "We create opening. For Earth. For all free peoples." Before anyone could respond, Carl's ship rammed into one of the fortress's main sensor arrays. The explosion took out several nearby defense platforms. "They sacrificed themselves to give us a shot," Lisa said quietly. Miller stood up. "We won't waste it. Amy, focus all fire on that breach. Kevin, divert emergency power to engines. Hayes, the second that Sunforge is ready, I want a firing solution on those cooling vents." The Prometheus surged forward, its guns tearing through the gap Carl had created. Alarms blared as hits rocked the ship, but they pressed on. "Sunforge ready," Hayes shouted. "Multiple hull breaches," Kevin reported. "We can't take much more." Through the chaos, Grand Admiral Vexthor's voice boomed again. "Impossible. No human ship can reach the fortress. All platforms, concentrate fire." "That's where you're wrong," Miller said quietly. "Now, Hayes, fire the Sunforge." The golden beam lanced out, slipping through the fortress's shields at precisely the right moment. It struck the cooling vents, and for a second nothing happened. Then Centauri Prime's North Pole erupted in a chain of explosions. "Direct hit," Hayes yelled. "The reaction is spreading through their power network." The defense platforms began going dark as their power source failed. The massive polar fortress, pride of the Zarkax Empire, started breaking apart. "Get us clear," Miller ordered as debris filled space around them. The Prometheus limped away from the destruction, its hull scared but its mission accomplished. Behind them, the greatest fortress in the galaxy burned. They had proven what humanity could do. But the war wasn't over yet. The destruction of the polar fortress had sent shockwaves through the Zarkax Empire, but the Prometheus's victory came at a heavy cost. Smoke filled several decks, and emergency crews rushed to seal hull breaches. "Damage report," Captain Miller ordered, wiping blood from a cut on his forehead. "Not good, sir," Kevin's tired voice came through the comm. "Main engines at 40%. Hull integrity failing on decks 3 through 7. The Sunforge," he paused. The last shot cracked the main focusing crystal. Lisa Cooper looked up from her station. "We have multiple Zarkax ships launching from the surface. They're not running, sir. They're gathering for a counterattack." The main screen showed dozens of enemy ships rising from Centauri Prime's surface bases. At their center was a massive vessel, twice the size of the Prometheus. "New transmission," Brian Parker announced. "It's Grand Admiral Vexthor." The screen changed to show a tall, gray-skinned alien with red eyes. His uniform bore the marks of 100 victories. "Captain Miller," Vexthor's voice was cold. "You have impressed me. No one has ever breached our fortress world before, but your ship is crippled, your wonder weapon damaged. Surrender now, and I will spare your crew." Miller stood straight despite his injuries. "You destroyed our colonies, killed millions of innocent people. We didn't come here to surrender." Vex Thor's eyes narrowed. "Then you came here to die." The transmission cut off. "Enemy fleet approaching," Amy reported. 50 ships, including Vex Thor's command vessel. Their weapons are hot. Robert Hayes spoke up from his science station. "Captain, I've been analyzing their command ship. Its power readings are off the scale. They must have stripped every remaining defense platform to boost its shields." Miller looked around the bridge. His crew was exhausted, their ship badly damaged. But in their eyes, he saw the same determination that had brought them this far. "Kevin, can we fire the Sunforge one more time?" "The crystal is cracked." "Sir," the engineer replied. "If we try, the feedback could tear the ship apart. And if we don't, we're dead anyway," Miller said. "How long to charge it?" 3 minutes. "But sir, even if it works, we'd need to be practically on top of them to pierce those enhanced shields." Lisa stepped forward. "That's suicide." "No," Miller shook his head. "That's victory." He pressed the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. Everything we've fought for comes down to this moment. Engineering, divert all power to the Sunforge and forward shields. Everyone else, prepare for close-quarters combat." The enemy fleet spread out, trying to surround them. Vex Thor's massive command ship stayed in the center, its weapons glowing with power. "They're in range," Amy announced. "Opening fire." Space lit up with weapons fire from both sides. The Prometheus's conventional guns blazed, targeting the smaller ships while dodging the command ship's massive energy beams. "Shields critical," Kevin shouted. "The Sunforge is charging, but we're taking too much damage." Miller watched the tactical display. The Zarkaks were so focused on surrounding them that they didn't realize what was coming. "All power to engines," he ordered. "Set collision course with the command ship." "Sir." Emily Wright looked up from navigation in shock. "Trust me. Lisa, send this to Vex Thor. You want to see our wonder weapon. Watch closely." The Prometheus surged forward, its engines straining. The sudden charge caught the Zarkaks off guard. Several enemy ships scrambled to get out of the way. "They're powering up their main gun," Hayes warned. "Sunforge at full charge," Kevin reported. "Crystal integrity failing." "Hold course," Miller ordered as Vex Thor's massive ship grew in their viewport. "Wait for it." The enemy command ship's main gun fired, the beam heading straight for them. "Now," Miller shouted, "fire everything." The damaged Sunforge fired its final shot just as the enemy beam reached them. The cracked crystal created not one beam but dozens, each carrying a fraction of the weapon's power. The scattered beams hit the command ship from multiple angles. For a moment, Vex Thor's enhanced shields held. Then, one beam found a weak point. The shields collapsed, and the remaining beams tore into the massive ship's hull. "Direct hit," Amy yelled in triumph. The command ship's reactor went critical. The explosion lit up space like a new sun, taking out several nearby Zarkaks vessels. "Get us clear," Miller ordered as debris pelted their hull. The Prometheus turned away from the destruction, its Sunforge forever silent, but its mission accomplished. Behind them, the remaining Zarkak ships began to retreat. The fortress world of Centauri Prime burned in their wake, a testament to humanity's refusal to submit. But the final battle still lay ahead. 3 days after the destruction of Grand Admiral Vex Thor's command ship, the U.S. Prometheus hung in space above Centauri Prime. The once mighty fortress world now lay silent, its defenses shattered, its remaining forces in chaos. Captain David Miller stood on his damaged bridge, looking at the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Lisa Cooper read them aloud, her voice growing stronger with each message. "The Zarkaks fleet is retreating from Earth's colonies. Their remaining fortress worlds are going dark. Sir, we did it. They're actually running. Not just running. Brian Parker added from his communication station. I'm picking up transmissions from dozens of alien worlds. They're rising up against their Zarkax overlords. Carol's people weren't the only ones waiting for a chance at freedom. Miller thought of their alien allies who had sacrificed themselves to give humanity this victory. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Tell them the fortress has fallen, and the galaxy is changing. Robert Hayes looked up from his science station. Captain, you need to see this. Scans of Centauri Prime are showing something incredible. Under all those fortress layers, there's a city, an ancient one. I think this was one of the gate builders' worlds before the Zarkax took it. No wonder they made it their fortress, Lisa said. They built their empire on stolen power, stolen worlds. Engineering Chief Kevin Foster's voice came through the comm, tired but proud. Final damage report, Captain. The Sunforge is completely burnt out. We'll never fire it again. But the main engines are stable, and hull integrity is holding. We can make it home. Sir, Annie Martinez called from Tactical. 3 ships approaching. But they're not Zarkax. They're representatives from nearby systems. They're requesting permission to dock. They want to talk. Miller straightened his uniform, wincing at his injuries. The galaxy just changed, and we're the ones who changed it. Lisa, prepare a diplomatic reception. Hayes, keep scanning that ancient city. Humanity could learn a lot from it. Brian, make sure Earth Command knows we're about to have company. As the crew moved to their tasks, Emily Wright spoke up from navigation. Captain, look. She pointed to the main viewport. The sun was rising over Centauri Prime, its light catching the debris of battle and turning it into a glittering field of diamonds. Beyond it, stars stretched to infinity, stars that were now safer because of what they had done. Message from Earth Command, Brian announced. Priority 1. The main screen showed Admiral Hayes, tears in her eyes. Captain Miller, crew of Prometheus, you've done it. The Zarkax Empire is collapsing. Their fleets are in full retreat across the galaxy. Earth is safe, she straightened. But more than that, you've given hope to countless enslaved species. The galaxy is opening up. There's talk of forming an alliance of free worlds, with Earth as a founding member. Miller looked at his tired, proud crew. Admiral, request permission to remain at Centauri Prime until the diplomatic meetings are complete. Someone needs to help build what comes next. Granted, the Admiral smiled. Write your own orders, Captain. You've earned it. After the transmission ended, Lisa turned to Miller. So what now, sir? Now. Miller looked at the rising sun again. Now we help build something better than a fortress. Earth isn't alone in the galaxy anymore. It's time we got to know our neighbors. The bridge crew stood a little straighter, their exhaustion giving way to pride and purpose. They had come to destroy a fortress, but in doing so, they had helped birth a new age for humanity. Send word to our guests, Miller ordered. Tell them the Prometheus welcomes them, and get me a line to Earth's diplomatic corps. We're going to need ambassadors out here. As the alien ships approached peacefully, Miller thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The sacrifices, the battles, the loss of Carol and his brave crew. But most of all, he thought about humanity's spirit, the determination that had driven them to challenge an empire and win. The Prometheus would never fire its great weapon again, but it had served its purpose. The galaxy's greatest fortress had fallen, and in its place, something new would rise. Not a fortress of fear and dominance, but a bridge between worlds. Captain, Lisa said softly, our guests are ready to dock. Miller nodded. Then let's go make history, again. The sun continued to rise over Centauri Prime as the Prometheus, battle-scarred but undefeated, prepared to help humanity take its first steps into a larger universe. The fortress world had fallen, but humanity's dawn was just beginning. And somewhere in the great darkness between the stars, other worlds watched and wondered about the species that had done the impossible, the humans who had brought down an empire and lit a fire of freedom that would burn forever.